Hiya, welcome to another episode of Pickler the Podcast. I'm your co-host Stacie Townsend, along with John, the People's Champ Davison. John, it's been a few weeks. What's been going on?
I've been working quite a bit. Been trying to get back on the pickle grind. Yeah, that's pretty much it, really. I've been pretty boring lately, I'll be honest with you.
What's the pickle grind? What's that like?
I hate drilling, and so I have to drill more because Olivia wants to drill. So that sucks. But I might try to start playing tournaments more. So I guess, I gotta get back on the grind a little bit.
Got to elevate that duper rating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got to keep it higher than Olivia's,
Yes. Well, thanks to Jill, we actually know that right now it's higher than Olivia's, but we'll have to see if Olivia can best you by the end of the year.
Doubtful.
So, John, do you have any pickleball apps on your phone or other device?
I think I have about 4,000 apps on my phone, and there are some that are pickleball related. Let's see. I have the Selkirk TV. I have PicklePlay. I don't know. I don't want to go through it, but those are pretty much the two important ones, I would say.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned one of them. We have an amazing guest today, which is a CEO of one of these amazing pickleball apps. It's a device to connect pickleball players with other players, courts, events, clubs, and just further ingrain people into the pickleball community. So I'd like to welcome Blake Renaud from PicklePlay. Welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Blake, I think John kind of alluded to it. I went through I guess it's called Apple Apps maybe now. And I went through it earlier today and I just searched pickleball and I got to, I think I was counting to 25 and I stopped counting because I was surprised at how many pickleball apps there were. I was kind of expecting a few because I only know of a few and PicklePlay is obviously one of them. But tell us a bit about PicklePlay for those that maybe don't know about it.
Yeah, so we've been working on PicklePlay for quite a while here and really had a vision for connecting pickleball players. So we started playing pickleball a few years ago, and a lot of people, how they get going, their friends teach them how to play a little bit. They've played a couple times. You're like, oh, this is kind of fun, but now what? Now what do we do? Where do we play? Who do we play with? What other events or clinics or tournaments are out there? How do I get more involved in the sport of pickleball? And how do I find groups or people to play with? So that kind of started brewing in the back of our minds as we started playing the sport ourselves. We also love to travel. And so we'd throw our paddles in our bags and would be like, now where do we go? Or what do we do? So PicklePlay, really our goal is to connect pickleball players with other players, courts they can play at. You can find out more court details, driving directions, kind of what's going on at that specific facility, maybe even see some pictures of the facility before you get there. And then we have an option for clubs or groups to post that they're in that area so you can get connected with those clubs or groups. But yeah, it's kind of spiraled. We want a one-stop shop for pickleball. So instead of having, like you mentioned, there's a lot of apps, right? So instead of having an app for keeping track of score or just courts or just this or just that, you could have quite a few adding up pretty easily. So PicklePlay, our goal is really to find the main things that people need as they're getting involved in the sport of pickleball and bring those to one platform instead of having multiple.
That makes sense. As you were talking, you mentioned find courts. You should be able to find John, the People's Champ, on his home court. I would be kind of hilarious if you could find certain players like identified too. Is that something you could do?
So you can see players in a specific area. So if you search like your city or town, it'll pull up all the players in that area and their skill level next to them. So you could reach out and find John and shoot him a message. But we actually are going to be adding a feature where you can like claim a court just so people know like, hey, I regularly play here. So that's coming very soon. So you will be able to maybe do that.
I think that's a pretty cool feature too, because then if you're traveling from out of town, you can see if like a lot of people tend to go to these courts. They say that they're here we have Jarbo Park, Donner Park, right within a couple miles of me. So it'd be cool, like if somebody's driving through town, they'd be like, oh, 100 people play at Donner, but only 50 people play at Jarbo, right? So I'm going to go to Donner, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's been a really fun, painful at times, as any business is or development is. But, as we're building and growing, we constantly are like, oh, this is what we need next. So we're always trying to get feedback from our users and say, okay, great. Now we have a lot of court locations. How do we make this better? And how do we have a better resource? So that is one of the things that our developers are doing right now is that feature. Like, okay, we have the court and we have a list of players in the general area, but let's narrow that down a little bit to the specific court.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Blake, was this a pain point for you when you were like learning how to play pickleball? Is this why you came up with it?
Yes. Yeah. So we were actually, my husband and I are kind of entrepreneurial, and we were trying to decide, what's the next fun, crazy thing we should do. And we were checking into an app for another sport, actually, because like I said, we do travel, and my husband plays basketball a lot. And when we go places, we like to play sports. So the concept started actually with a different sport. And then we started playing pickleball, and there was just like pain point after pain point after pain point. And I think you guys would probably agree, a lot of those pain points are still there. So we tried to, we're like, man, somebody needs to do this, and we can do it. So we, kind of assess the pain points. Where do you even play? I mean, we live in a pretty small town, and we didn't even know where we could play, right? And so, we kind of had a lot of pain points and tried to narrow them down to what would make sense for our application.
I think it's definitely grown now too, because there's so many more facilities. I remember when PicklePlay, when it first came out. When was it? What year?
So we've been out live almost 2 years. So a little bit less. So the end of summer 2 years ago. Yep.
Yeah. I wonder like what the percentage of courts that you had on your app versus what's actually out there. Do you know? And is that gap closing?
The gap is closing. Yeah. So we started out with only 2,000 courts on our platform. And we know that there's way more than that. So I think now we're at like 6,000 or 7,000. Those are locations. So some of the counts that you see online are like, there's 25,000 courts. Well, those are each court, not just the location. So there might be 20 courts at one location, if that makes sense. So that does narrow the gap a little bit more. We try to have as many as we know about, and our users actually can add courts. There's a plus icon on our map. If a new court comes up in your area, anyone can add the facility, which is really helpful too. But that would be really interesting. I don't know the specific statistics on that, but I know we've grown a lot.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know. I guess it would be tough to put a number to that. Yeah. Really, but
I guess you don't know what you don't know.
Right, exactly. I'm pretty sure most people don't want to put their private court on there.
Yeah, we get that requested a lot, actually. Like, that population is very slim, even though that's amazing. Anyone that has a court, it's awesome. But, we'll see. Someday maybe they could have like a hidden court option or something. But
there you go.
But there's not a huge need for that, compared to public courts or even just facilities. And then, as you guys know, the tennis courts keep getting lined or changed. And so there's so many changes from facilities, on how many courts they're adding or different lines they're adding. So it's a constant, there's constant changes. So
for sure.
I recently saw an app, or maybe it's a business model, but it's basically like an Airbnb for your swimming pool. So you can like rent out your pool for the day, or someone can just come and use it. How awesome would it be if pickleball courts got so popular you could like rent out your private court for a day or an hour? It'd be like a good side hustle for some folks, I bet.
I mean, it's coming. I think it really is because we have access to a private court and it's used all the time, not for pay, but it's used all the time because the public courts are really, really busy. So,
Yeah, that's actually a genius idea, Stacie. I think Blake's gonna have to run with that one and make a bunch of money on it. Because I did see that like you can like rent hot tubs and stuff and pools, and it's like I don't know if I'd want like people in my backyard pool, but hey,
maybe for John, I don't know. Yeah,
yeah, I
hey,
guess.
we could add it. We'll just add it to the list of about 100 things that we should add to PicklePlay, and someday we'll get to it.
The other idea that just came to me, Blake, is so if I can find the People's Champ in my area, I would also love to get alerted when he comes to my area and I could challenge him to a game. You could get a lot of, I think, some good rivalries going, I feel like.
Yeah. So when we first launched, you were able to play another player and keep track of wins and losses, but it was just pretty generic and the functionality wasn't all, it wasn't built well enough to be out there yet. So we put a pause on that feature and, but I love that idea. I love the challenge, keep track. We have like points you can earn on the app and someday they'll be worth value. And so you never know.
So in the pickleball population, as you know, trends a little older, although it is trending younger. So it's right now, I don't know, probably plus 55, but it's trending younger. Being a technology company, has that been difficult for you or a little educational learning curve?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'll be completely honest. It's been a challenge and we actually put a product out when we first launched and we had to pause and we actually rebuilt our entire platform because there's so many types of phones and devices and each in the app world, they have to be coded and specific to that device. So you might have a problem that Sally doesn't have, but Sally has a really old Android phone device, and she's ticked. And so we actually put a pause and rebuilt our whole platform just better to withstand all the different types of phones and the older phone devices that some people might have where it just wouldn't function as well. So yeah, we took a 6-month pause in everything and just rebuilt this past year, and that's helped a ton. So now our app, can withstand a wider demographic of phone devices, which will help. There's also things like, all the accessibility features. So if you have your zoom really enlarged or, different font type things, that affects how the app will show up on your phone. So we've made a ton of changes in the last year behind the scenes that a lot of people may not even notice, but just to better equip and be prepared for the wide variety of users that we have. And then we're also very close to launching a web version so that it doesn't matter what type of phone you have. And that's going to be focused mostly on clubs or group play versus like just the basic map feature that will stay on the app. But if you want to manage your schedule and play and your group communication, we'll have a web option, which will really help, then it won't matter. And some of the demographic will be able to use that a little easier. So
I guess I was being a little stereotypical, but the older generation is usually slower adopters on the technology than the younger generations. But and I just speak probably because my parents always ask me how to fix this and that on their phone. So
yeah. No, it's a thing. We're trying. We try to keep our platform pretty simple with the tabs separating the different things and try to make it like, hey, just click around. It is easier than you think it is, but we're also mindful of there are barriers in technology, and any technology business is aware of that. So trying to do what we can on our end to eliminate some of those hurdles.
Stacie, you were being a little stereotypical there. Olivia just now figured out how to sign up for a tournament by herself and pay on pickleball tournaments, and she's 30 years old. So that technology issue is it's an issue for all ages.
It's like millennials and up. Maybe the Gen Zs haven't figured out.
Yes. Hey, we have tournaments on our app too. On our map screen, under the event tab, you can find tournaments with links to register. So we're trying to make it easier.
And you have your own like bracket software involved in it as well.
No, so it's just to help people find these tournaments. So we're actually filtered. We get with pickleball tournaments, and those flow into our app. So if you're searching Jacksonville and there's a tournament on pickleball tournaments in Jacksonville, it'll show up on our event tab with a link to register. So trying to just get awareness out. A lot of players, come into the game and then they like it and they get a little better. And then they're like, they want to explore maybe playing in a tournament, but they don't know
how. Yeah.
They don't know where to go or how to find it. So that's just an additional resource.
I played for a whole year before I even knew there were tournaments.
Oh, sorry, John.
Well, I was saying I played for a whole year.
I know.
Before I knew there were tournaments. I think you must be delayed, Stacie.
Yeah, well, my brain obviously isn't working very fast because I was being stereotypical and now I can't keep up with the conversation. So I apologize today. But why do you think the pickleball as a sport is a little behind? I feel like we're a little behind on technology, and obviously you're trying to solve that issue with PicklePlay, Blake. But why do you think we're just a little behind in that, or what do you think some solutions could be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still a new sport, right? As far as popularity, like it's been around for quite a while and people love it, but just the growth rate that it's at right now, when you have a small demographic, not a lot of people are going to invest in technology. It's really hard. And I can speak from experience. Like, we planned for a year. We've been out for, close to 2 years. It's constant investment, time, energy, and finances, right? So for people to come in from a technology standpoint, it has to make sense eventually. And so as the demographic and as the numbers grow, there's hope that it'll be worth it, right? But it's a long-term play, and anybody building any sort of solution has to be willing to wait it out a few years to see any profit, from that. So I think things will continue to get easier. There will be more technology coming into the market. But the demographic played into it. I think before it is trending younger, but I think growth is the main thing. You have to have the numbers there to justify eventually. So.
Can I ask what the other sport was you were considering? And if 3 years ago is when you were really looking at this project, did you think the numbers were there then, or are you surprised now?
Yeah. So we were looking into basketball. So my husband plays a lot of pickup basketball. And so that's where we were headed. The market is just so huge and there's a lot of options, and it would have been crazy to dive right into basketball. I mean, there's millions and millions of players, it's just, there's a lot of resources, a lot of money in basketball. And then we fell in love with pickleball, and it was such a smaller controlled market that it was just an easier option. Plus there's a lot more pain points. Like, basketball is a pretty established sport that's been around for a long time with a lot of numbers. So even if, most rec centers have pickup basketball games, right? And you can just call them and find out. But there was a lot more pain points for pickleball that we saw, and we just saw a greater need there. So again, we're in it for the long haul. So we're still developing, we're still growing. We're at almost 25,000 users. So the numbers are getting there. But it's not something that you can just dive into and expect to have a huge return on.
Is it what you projected 3 years ago, though? Are you where you thought you'd be?
As far as numbers, no, we were hoping to have more by now, but if you take into the consideration of us pausing and rebuilding our development, we really had a good chunk in there where we were not like growing or marketing at all, because we paused everything. So if you take that chunk of time into consideration, yes, we're on track and we're growing. But it's just like, do you count that little hurdle there of 9 months or not? So, but yeah, we're really excited. Our growth rate since we've released our new app is tremendous. We're seeing a lot of really good feedback, a lot of more groups and players using our platform. So we're really excited about where we're going and continuing to meet goals again now that we're back on track. So.
What is your you touched on in the beginning being like a one-stop shop.
Yep.
What is like, I guess it is kind of your vision, but like what do you envision that being? You know,
Yes.
like what is the vision for PicklePlay? Like
Yep.
What is your complete goal, I guess?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, having a one-stop spot. So if you're new to pickleball or you're an established player, we kind of have, if you look at our website, have some like bullet points. So it's like courts. We want to, find courts, details, help people know where they can play. People, so connecting with other players. And as you guys know, like skill level is pretty important with that too. So great if you find a player, but you need to have the right type of player to play with if you're looking for someone to play with. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like a new player needs to probably play with a newer crowd and lower skill level. And as you get more advanced, you want to play with a more advanced group. So courts, players, clubs. So any club or group, just helping grow the community. It's most people, community is a huge part of pickleball, and that's what makes it fun. You meet so many friends, and it becomes part of your normal life routine. And so having the support of a club or group, and then events, so clinics and tournaments, and how to improve or take your game to the next level. Courts, players, clubs, events, and we're going to continue to build our resources around those four.
Cool. I mean, it pretty much hits on almost everything in pickleball. So
so our clubs or groups, I mean, a lot of people don't even realize you can just put your club or group on our app just for people to find, but you also can manage your schedule. You can there's like a little group thread. You can invite members. You can say when and where you're playing, and people can actually respond going or not. That was another pain point for us. We're like, okay, now we have a group of people that we play with, but when are they playing? And these text messages are getting so confusing. And now we're talking about the weather and the dog. And we're just like, we just need to know when are we playing and who's coming. So that's kind of another aspect under our club section is if you have a group of friends or a club, you can post your schedule and people can say going or not. So.
Does it help with private groups too? I notice a trend of a lot of people putting little private groups and it's very important to get 4 or 8. If you get 7, it's always a little awkward when you go to play, right? So does PicklePlay help with that concept too?
Yeah. So under our club shield is the second icon on the bottom. It will give you an option. Is this like an official club? Or is this a private group? And it might even just be a group of friends, right? Like my husband plays competitively with a group of like 8 guys, and that's who they want to play with. And so, it's really helping those smaller groups too of just, hey, this is when we're playing and we need to know who's in or out. And so again, our dev team is working on better notifications for this. There's a little group chat feature in there and having the ability to have notifications on or off for your club or group. We're still working on that feature, but it's fully functioning now. And those beginner groups or advanced groups or some of those little, I have like a ladies group I play with, that's a good resource for them to have just, hey, we're playing Wednesday night. Who can come? We need to know.
What do you think about, John, I'm curious your thoughts. I have talked to somebody about the private groups versus like the open social play. And one person I talked to was really adamant that the private groups goes against the culture of pickleball. And it should always be open play. Like it was a very painful topic, I guess, for them. What do you think about that?
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do with pickleball. I mean, there's no to me, there's no set, standard, right? I mean, if people want to play with, it's like, okay, you have the private groups of like, the guys or gals that are trying to get better and they just want to play with those people. And then you also have like families that come in, right? So you have like a family that'll show up to a court and they just want to play with their family, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think some of the times, even at the local courts here, you know, it's, a public court and, really anybody can do anything with the court, right? And, I've seen people be like, "Oh, you have to mix in. This is open play," and it's like, no, no, it's really not, And then they'll do that to like somebody who's starting out for the very first time, and it's like they think that their way of playing is the end all be all, and it's like, no, like people play for different reasons. It's like you can just force some new family, right, to play in with you when they don't want to, So I think it's, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like if it's a club and that's what the standard is, then I totally get it. But if it's a public court, then I'm like, you can't really tell anybody to get off. That's my opinion.
Blake, do you have any thoughts on this issue?
Oh, I think this is part of pickleball, right? There's so many aspects to pickleball, and when you're just getting started, you don't realize, right? There's so many different skill levels. There's so many different types of play, and like, oh, I'm gonna go play pickleball. Well, what type of pickleball are you looking for? Like you mentioned, there's I had no clue when we first started playing, like, oh man, like there's really competitive groups, and then there's like the set open play, like you said, and then there's our kids love to play. So then we just want to show up and just have a great family activity. And I think we saw that especially during COVID, like tons of families were going out and spending time together on the courts. And I think it does get tricky separating and understanding the culture of pickleball, right? And if you show up during a set time that's for that club or group, and there's a drop-in fee and they have their plan, it's great that somebody takes the time to organize that, and that's really important. But then we also need to be like, have some grace and understanding for people that are new, that just want to hit around for fun, and maybe they're just looking for a new form of exercise and don't, they wouldn't be able to probably jump in a competitive play situation, nor would they want to. So yeah, I see all aspects of it. I personally love playing socially, so I don't play in tournaments. We do ladies' nights, we do couples nights, we play with the kids. Like, that's more my excitement for pickleball. But then my husband's completely opposite. Like, he wants to play to win and to get better, and so it's just funny. I think you think pickleball and you don't even realize the different types behind the scenes.
Well, I think you hit on what I think makes pickleball so great, right? Like, your husband wants to go and get better, but then he can also go and have a family night with you and your kids, right? Like, so my feeling is I think open play is a vital part of the sport, and I think it should be fostered just like you're doing with PicklePlay. I think that's amazing. But I think it brings so many people in because you can make it whatever you want. And I think that's really what's special about it.
Yeah. And I think all the areas are so necessary. And you're right. That's what made us excited about pickleball in the beginning, was we saw all the demographics, all the different types of play, and just all the opportunities for pickleball to meet needs for specific people and what they're looking for.
And I'm not hating on the open play idea. I'm just hating on that being the only culture for pickleball, right? So
it can get intimidating. I mean, it can turn people away from the sport too, so I agree.
Yeah, we've been yelled at before. Like, get off our court, get out of the court. And I'm like, dude, we've been here. We're like literally on our last game. We've already been here for like 2 hours. Typically when people show up and there's like open play, we usually get out of there, right? To give up, give the court to everybody. People are yelling at us. I'm like, what the heck? Like, we're just playing just like you are, just with our own group. Like, leave us alone.
Yeah. Yep.
But the people's champ needs to claim his court in PicklePlay and at least put everybody on notice.
Exactly.
Stay tuned. It's coming.
I want PicklePlay to say John Davison has this court whenever he wants.
Change the title.
So whenever everyone tries to kick me off, I just show them. Look at here. The PicklePlay says this is my court.
Yes.
So what technology do you think pickleball is missing? Maybe it's something PicklePlay, it's on your radar, but you haven't hit on yet, or even beyond what PicklePlay's vision is. What do you think pickleball is missing in terms of technology? It can be anything.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think all of our resources need to be simplified. And I think it's, whether it's a demographic issue or just in general, like we need to have easy solutions for all aspects of technology. So I think continuing to look at the pain points, whether it's stuff that we're doing as far as just finding things related to pickleball and getting more involved in the community, to tournaments and ratings and all the things, right? There's a lot going on in pickleball right now, and a lot of great things and a lot of people doing wonderful things. But I think everyone needs to have the focus of community engagement and simplification. So I don't have a specific we need this. I think there's a lot of course there's going to be new things popping up, but I think just ways to get out in the public more, outside of the normal pickleball. There's some resources online as far as finding players and things, but I think getting the word out, whether it's on the major networks, TV opportunities, things, you're seeing it more and more and more on Google, on everywhere, pickleball is popping up. So that's only going to help us. But I think then what do we do with those players, and how do we get them all the resources they need? And I think it comes down to just making it easy and simple for players.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Stacie, what technology would you add to the PicklePlay app from an outsider? What would you add
to the PicklePlay app? I mean,
I have one, but I want you.
Yeah, well, when I came into pickleball, I think the hardest thing was finding my people, right? Like you kind of touched on it, like you want to find people that are skilled, but I think also have similar goals to you, right? Like we talked about the competitive versus social play. I think that's important. I think finding people that personality, right? Like I love playing with John, and because we're friends, but some people that are just as good as John and maybe have the same goals, it's just not as fun because they're not joking and making fun of me on the court or having a good time. They're very serious about it. So maybe if I had a profile that said my personality, my rating,
it's like a dating app.
Yeah, my goals for pickleball, and then I could find my people faster. But I think that's kind of the hardest thing. I think because like you said, you go out of court as a new person, you don't want to run into someone that just rubs you the wrong way, and then you have this horrible first impression of pickleball and you're I'm never going back. So I don't know if that's I don't even know if technology can solve that, but just people.
Hey, we have profiles on our app, and I don't know about adding personality types, but
have matches. You can have recommended matches. Yeah.
Swipe left and swipe right.
People joke with us all the time. They're like, "Can you make a dating section?" I'm like, "Oh, not today." But I mean, it's actually a serious thing. It actually could be huge. But I'm like, focus, Blake, focus. But it's not a bad idea.
If you put that just in the Villages as a pilot, the Villages, Florida, you'll probably have thousands of new downloads within a week.
Be paid version or something, right?
Exactly. My idea is more in the tournament
what is
side.
It?
Okay. So because we're talking about technology and just making it easier and better for everything, it bothers me how far behind the referee technology is.
Yeah.
Why are we still have clipboards with a piece of paper and a clothespin and and now it's on ESPN and Tennis Channel and they literally have a piece of paper. How do we not have an app? And PicklePlay could do it, right? Have an app. You already have the connection, I guess, to pickleball tournaments. If the ref has it on a tablet, then you can get live scoring for people at home. So people can be on the PicklePlay app and be like, oh, wow, Stacie's up, 7-3 over Annalie Waters in singles. Wow, this is crazy. Even though they're not watching, but they're seeing the live scoring because it's available, and then it makes the refs look more professional as well.
We've actually had conversations at major tournaments about this very thing because, it's tough. But as the sport grows and gains credibility, the clipboards probably need to go. And there are so many easier, better solutions. And the scoring is great. Like, we've discussed that too. We've gone to so many tournaments and had no clue what the score was. And we're physically there watching.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, even if you're there, it'd be a benefit. I do know, I think there might be some people working on something like that, but I agree. I love the idea. And I was thinking more the general public, but if you're looking at tournaments specifically, I think there's a lot of opportunity for some technology growth in the tournament scene.
Yeah. And I think for your app specifically, I think it really helps when people are traveling.
Yeah.
For sure. I know I've looked at it. I don't look at it as much in where I'm at now, because it's like, I know everybody. I've been here for a while, right? So it's like, I know everybody, I know where the courts are.
Yep.
But if you're traveling, it's like, dang, where do we find a court? So that's when it really comes in handy.
Yeah.
And dang, who even lives here? Are there any 5-0s around here that we can, play with? Whatever.
Yeah. And if your club or group, so if your group is on the app, you're checking in, you're checking the calendar. But if you're not, then you really are using it when you're traveling or when you're out and about. And so we're constantly, right now, we just added a tagging feature. So if someone was looking in Jacksonville, I could tag you and say, hey, John, maybe you could help them out or something. You might be able to engage a little bit more based on the people, but I agree.
John, I wanted to go back
cool.
to your referee example because I think it's really smart too, because one of the arguments I remember for rally scoring, which I know is a hot topic right now, is the number of points and you could do the betting for the sports. But if you had an app, you could keep the same scoring likely, and you could say no result, or there was a point or rally played but no point was scored. So you could maybe calculate or grab a lot more statistics you can than from the end result of whatever it is at that time. So I think that would be really interesting. And you being the analytical mind, I'm sure would love to get your hands on data like that. So.
For sure.
You just let me know. We could just have another app. I mean, why not add another one? Life is crazy enough. We'll just get on this here.
Well, we have plenty of ideas, Blake. I mean, if you want to make them all come to fruition, we're down. We're ready for it.
I know, that is one of the hard part. It's a really hard part of this is there's so many awesome ideas and everything is very challenging to execute. And so just navigating, we get a lot of feedback, which I'm constantly looking for feedback. So I appreciate everyone that takes the time to do it, but then you have to prioritize that. Like, okay, is this going to affect 1 or 2 people or 20 people, or is it going to affect thousands that are on the platform? And what goes first, and what do we invest, the development dollars into, and what priorities? So, but yeah, there's lots of great ideas, and it's exciting for anybody in pickleball. I think we're going to continue to see a lot coming.
I think that's another challenging thing is pickleball is growing so fast. So a decision you're making today that may affect thousands of people, should you be looking at today or what's going to happen tomorrow? I mean, the sport's just, it's crazy.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother factor for anyone. I mean, really anyone in pickleball right now, no matter what the specific industry they're in, has to be thinking, a couple years ahead, which is hard to do. And it's unpredictable.
Definitely. So what's been the worst part of this whole pickleball app journey?
Yeah, I would say, and probably most business owners and entrepreneurs would say, everything is so much harder than you think it's going to be, in general. And that can, mostly be applied to most things in life, right? But, I think we came into it thinking we had this great idea, we have this great network, we have, resources set aside for this and we're going to go. And it's, and you just don't realize how difficult it is. So building an app is very, very, very difficult, and marketing an app is very, very difficult. And, all the aspects, maintaining it is very difficult, and getting user engagement is very difficult. So I would say we just couldn't comprehend how hard it was going to be. Just being completely honest, it's very hard. And then, if you're on your phone, we live in a very fast-paced world. And so there's not a whole lot of understanding when it comes to technology, because we live in the world that we live in, and we want everything to work smoothly. And it doesn't matter if you have internet connection or not, or, just all the different variables. Like, I want it now. That's the world we live in. So, I love it, but it has been a lot harder than we ever could have imagined. So,
well, I have to ask what the best part is now, if that was the worst part.
The best part, it's been an awesome experience for me and our family. So we have traveled to so many different tournaments, met so many wonderful people from all around the country and the world, and just have got really accepted into the pickleball community on a grander scheme than our own little community, which is wonderful. But I would say it's provided so many opportunities to meet people and life experiences from traveling. And it's rewarding, honestly, to know all the, anytime you go through all the hard work of any challenge in life and you're like, wow, you just take a pause and you're like, I know it's not perfect, but I actually have an app now, and it actually is functioning, and there's people using it and people downloading. Like, it's pretty, it's pretty exciting to just, when I do pause and be grateful for how far we've come from nothing. So
definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
I can't imagine building an app.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you got to think about the metaverse too. And how are you going to position yourself with that?
Oh boy. Yeah. There's a lot. My husband's like a lot more entrepreneurial. He's into all the things, all the, he is a lot more knowledgeable, honestly, on a lot of that than I am. So I am business operations, marketing, keep the ship running. He's the crazy idea guy that gets us into all these crazy things. So we're a good balance, and I'm going to let him think about all the future ideas. We have a lot of fun ideas, but and then I'll make it happen.
Yeah.
In the time.
Has there been any discussion of like the Web3 and NFTs or DAOs and the metaverse?
Yeah, there actually has. Yeah. We have a few ideas that I think could be really cool and implemented well with our platform. So there is discussion, and it's like, again, that balance of like, okay, let's get where we're at, figured out. But you do have to think about that, especially in technology and where our world is going. So yeah, we've had quite a few discussions in regard to some of that. So I think there's opportunities in the future. Yeah, in those realms.
Awesome. Like, that'd be awesome if you guys can create the first ever pickleball online game. That'd be my my next request of you. I'm just gonna add to your
like, just stay on your couch and play it. Yeah, I mean, there's people. It's a great idea. Yeah, and there's people doing. There is some sort of video game coming out, I think.
Ooh.
Not by us, but
well, then boo them.
I've heard whispers of a video game.
Isn't Pong like the most downloaded or played video game? So you could just have a pickle version or something.
Yeah, I know, right? I've actually get asked that sometimes. Like, people will download the app and I'll get an email like, is this real life or is this a game? I'm like, well, once you open the app, you can kind of figure it out. But yeah, that's been kind of funny. So
yeah, I have a question for you.
Okay,
it's a little off topic. How did you turn a chemistry degree into being now a app developer? What was the change?
Sometimes at night I pause and reflect on that and wonder myself. I have no clue. I did half chemistry and half business in college. I had an interest in both, and really have most of my life navigated towards the business end of things. So having the chemistry background was going to be very helpful in my business adventures, and I would say it's probably not overly helpful at the moment, but yeah, I would say my brain and interest kind of navigated more to the business end of things.
So there's no more chemistry.
I don't think so. No, I'd have to do some major refreshing, and I don't see that coming anytime soon.
What other partnerships do you have on the? Because I know you're partnered with, I think one of the tours or both tours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. We actually have a good relationship with both the tours. We're partnered with Tyson McGuffin, which is awesome, and have all of his clinics, Tyson McGuffin clinics on our app. And he's, of course, wonderful. And we have a lot of different partnerships as far as players and paddle companies, Gamma Sports and Never Stop Playing camps. We have a new partnership that we're going to be announcing very soon, so stay tuned. We have Keto Crisp bars now. We actually support, so a lot of people don't know this, we support 4 local tournaments per month with like giveaway items and prizes, and trying to really help those small tournaments have a great experience for players. So people like Keto Crisp, Dot Shot, wellness samples, we're able to give those out at tournaments. One Shot Pickleball is wonderful. And I actually have a bucket of junior paddles because we're going to be doing some junior clinics coming up, and just trying to continue to encourage the younger players coming in.
You probably could have stopped at Tyson, Blake, because John loves a good Tyson shout out as his bro. But that's amazing that you have so many partners and doing a lot to bring the pickleball community together. You touched on the youth side a little bit. Is that a passion of yours because of your kids, or what's your focus on youth pickleball?
Yeah, our kids love to play. And so right now my son, even next weekend, is going to be playing against adults, right? And so it's like, it's 10 and we're like, we just encourage him, just do your best. And, it's a great experience, but we want to see youth pickleball grow. And we want to see better resources. And right now the youth tournaments are very sparse, and the opportunities to play, you really have to travel. And so eliminating some of those barriers down the road is important, right? Like we want kids that can't travel to be able to play pickleball. And right now it's really, sadly, is kids that can travel. They have a lot better chance of playing pickleball. So, doing more local activities with kids and clinics. Our local club does a free kids clinic every once in a while. And then we're going to be doing another little junior clinic here in another month or two. So I think just getting more people playing, so then those tournaments can start having the branches, for youth, is really, really important.
I think it's going to be huge once it starts getting into schools. It's already getting at like the college club level, but once it starts getting to high schools and middle schools, I think that'll be pretty cool as a real sport.
And it is. It definitely is in some areas, but it depends. Like, is a PE coach a member of a local pickleball club? That's what it's going to come down to, right? Like, because unless the PE teacher in the school system has someone directly connected, they don't see it just wouldn't be on their radar probably.
I do think colleges are the key though, John. I think pickleball is like the perfect collegiate, social, competitive, like blend of everything.
Oh, for intramural and club?
Yeah, for sure.
It would, like, can you imagine like fraternities like playing each other, and then, club teams, obviously they have some of that now, but it's going to be massive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's coming, it's exciting. And, most colleges are at least getting lined, if not dedicated courts. And we've helped with the local one at our college. There's a group that did it. And, we did a short little session because some of the players had never even played. They just signed up for the pickleball tournament. Like they knew it was a fun sport. They'd heard about it and they wanted to be there. So you can pair those easily with clinics, right before, and just, teach them the basics, and then they just have a great time playing. So
Cool. Is there anything else that you want to leave us some goodies with? Like and for the people listening at home, what to expect?
Any inside
From
scoops?
PicklePlay?
And you want to release any new information right here, right now, Blake?
Well, like I mentioned, I've been saying this for months, so people are like, oh, Blake, you keep saying this, but we are in full test mode looking to launch our web version for clubs or groups. Scheduling, managing your membership dues. It's simple and easy. A lot of local communities, they have like a $25 a year membership. And then they just need to know when and where we're playing, and that is our goal for our first version of our web platform. So we are seeking groups to test that out, and we're kind of just going through with a small amount of groups in the month of July. So that would be great if you want to reach out to info@pickleplay.com if you have interest in that. But also just stay tuned and check in on our app every once in a while. It's a free download. We're constantly adding new features, constantly trying to improve our platform and adding things that we talked about as far as claiming a court or saving a court on your profile. And really, we post things like this or news articles, different things here and there on our platform. And so, and people are asking when and where they can play in different regions as well. So I would say just asking players to, 1, download or check out the app. It's free on Android or iOS. 2, check in with us every once in a while on the platform. You might be surprised at the activity that we're starting to show, and stay tuned for great resources. Like, we have a long roadmap and are excited to continue to build our platform. So,
awesome.
John, before you close it
Stacie,
out, I have one more question for you, Blake. Are you happy with your decision of pickleball over basketball?
Yes, very much. It would have been it would have been crazy. I can't even imagine. Not that basketball isn't wonderful, but it would have been a total different experience. And we love pickleball, and it's been so great for our entire family to dive right into the sport. So very happy with pickleball.
Awesome. Nice. Well, go download the PicklePlay app.
Too.
Make sure you find John, the People's Champ Davison, up in Jacksonville once he claims his court, and support.
I will do that.
And support pickleball entrepreneur helping grow the game and build our community. And make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Head over to thepickler.com, sign up for our pickleball newsletter. It's free. Help your game improve and get some of the best stories and podcasts like this one in your inbox. And John, I'll let you take us out.
That's it. Make sure you smash that like button. It helps us out. But Blake, what we do here is we always cheers the camera. I don't know if you have a water bottle or what around you.
Fancy cup from our local
That's perfect.
Peppers Bar and Grill.
I don't know what that is, but it's making me hungry. But so we always cheers the camera. So thank you, Blake, for joining us. We will be on that app. So Pickler is out.